Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for our accounting panel. On behalf of the members of the Mount St. Vincent University Business and Tourism Department, I would like to begin by thanking you for welcoming us this biannual gathering. As a descendant of the British settlers, I acknowledge and pay respect to the Indigenous people of the land from which we host today's meeting, the new Mi'kmaq people. I live and work on the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I also pay respect to the knowledge embedded in the Indigenous custodian of this land and to the elders past, present, and future. My name is Caitlin, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this panel. For today's panel, we are going to offer some questions to all the panelists, but panelists are encouraged to give their input at any time and to comment on something from another guest has said. If you have anything to add, please feel free to contribute and interject at any time as well. I would love to hear from all of the panelists here today. So if you can all share with us a brief introduction by telling us a little bit about yourself, the business you work with, and your position within that business. So maybe I'll start with Jennifer Simister, please.
Hi there, my name is Jenn Simister, born and raised in Halifax. I am currently with the Steele Auto Group out of Halifax. We're an auto group owning 54 dealerships across Atlantic Canada, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Wonderful, thank you so much, Jennifer. And Abbie Hodder.
Hi, my name is Abbie Hodder, and I'm a junior accountant at BDO in their assurance and accounting practice. And I started here about a year and a half ago, and BDO is a mid-sized accounting firm. So we do a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, providing mostly like audit services. So like reviews, notice to reader assessments, as well as actual audits.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And Doug Harris.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Doug Harris. I'm a general counsel, so a lawyer, not an accountant, at the Nova Scotia Securities Commission. I've been here for coming up on a year, and previous to that, I lived and worked in Toronto. So I am your token Ontario expatriate for this panel.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Happy to have you, both in Halifax and on this panel. And Jamie Decker.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jamie Decker. I work at Marsh Captive Solutions. I've been with Marsh now for close to 13 years. I'm a CPA for the whole CPA amalgamated. I got my CGA, but now it's all just one designation. I'm a senior accounting manager. They also like to call us vice presidents, but I'm the vice president of nothing. It's just a title they like to give. Yeah, so I mean, I can get a little bit more into what a captive is. A lot of people don't really know what they are, but it's a pretty long spiel. So if anybody has any more questions as we go along, I can get more into that.
No, you're totally welcome to go in on that. I know a lot of students are possibly interested in learning about it. So we've got the time. Feel free to tell us a bit about it.
For sure. So what a captive is so what we do is, look, we're all accountants at our office. We're a CPA pre-certified office, so just like you would kind of be at an accounting firm or what have you. And what we do is we manage these things called insurance captives. So an insurance captive is it's an insurance company that's owned by another company used to cover its own risks. So if you think of a large company like Ford, for example, they might, they go to the market, they buy insurance, they pay all kinds of premiums, but what they decide is, hey, like, we're going to start our own insurance company. They take it, what they do is they put it in what's called a domicile, which is a location that allows captives to exist. Then we manage those captives. So what a company like Ford would do is they pay premiums into this captive, and they cover all of any kind of risk that they want to cover. So they'll pay premiums. If they pay losses, they pay the losses. If any money is left at the end of the day, it stays inside the captive, and they can do all kinds of other things with it as well. The captive itself is its own legal entity. It has its own board of directors, has its own accounting, full cycle accounting, audit, all that kind of stuff. So what we do is we manage those. So what people at our office do is you're basically almost like a controller of all these little companies. So you might get 10 small companies, you might get 5 big companies. A lot of Fortune 500 companies have captives. So what we do is we just do the accounting A to Z and make sure that the client's happy at the end of the day.
Wonderful.
That's as
Thank you
brief as I
very
can make
much. Thank you. I appreciate the extra knowledge. That's good to know. Okay, wonderful. So we are going to start with our first question, which is, what led you to the position you are in today? Like, did you go to university with the intention of working in finance, or did you want to do this from a young age? Maybe I will start with Abbie Hodder, please.
Yeah, that's a super great question. So I actually graduated from the Mount in 2020, and it's actually really cool because I used to do Caitlin's job once upon a time as a co-op student.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, I did. I did 2 terms in the business department as a co-op student, which is actually how I ended up at my job at BDO, because of course in Caitlin's role, you're doing these panels, you're doing the business conference and stuff like pre-COVID, lots of interaction with business professionals. And so I got on my radar a lot of the different opportunities out there in accounting and finance, as well as, what are the different organizations I could work for and stuff. So that was super awesome. And so when I was in my 4th year of university, I actually attended a networking event, and I met 2 individuals from my office here in Dartmouth. And they were like, hey, we're hiring a co-op student as well as for full-time, you should apply. And I had heard the name BDO before, didn't really know what they did, but I was like, you know what? I need a co-op placement because I had 1 co-op term left, as well as I was like, I would like a full-time job. So I submitted my application, and as I went through the hiring process and stuff, I got to really learn about BDO, as well as some of the great things about it, which I'm sure Caitlin is going to ask a question later on about your organization. And so I ended up getting hired on as a co-op student, and I graduated on my co-op here and started full-time in September. There was never really anything in me when I was younger that I wanted to become an accountant. I actually wanted to become a dentist. And so it was in my 12th year of high school that I was like, you know what, business seems like a solid way to go in university, because I didn't want to become a dentist anymore. And I started at the Mount, did a campus tour, and I was like, the school is great. Accounting seems like a really strong field to enter because everyone's always going to need an accountant. And it wasn't until I started going through my courses at the Mount and doing my co-op terms that I really started to notice, like, yeah, accounting's a really good fit for me, as well as audit is just like a phenomenal fit. And I'll go in later a bit about what we do as an auditor. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I am today. And I started here as a co-op student, and I stayed here to full-time. And so don't have any plans on leaving anytime soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Doug Harris, I know you mentioned that you were in law originally, and now you're working in more finance sector. What's the journey that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So I started off my career practicing at a law firm in Toronto in kind of the corporate finance area, and then moved to teaching. So I taught law at the University of Toronto Law School for a few years. And from there moved to a regulatory organization regulating capital markets in Toronto. And most recently have joined the Securities Commission. So my career has been moving between different types of roles, all within capital markets and corporate finance. And since I guess whenever it was 2005, so for the last 16 years or so, have been in the regulatory sphere. So when this opportunity at the Nova Scotia Commission came up, I was looking to make a move to Halifax, and so it was just perfect, and it's very much in line with what I'd been doing before.
Wonderful. And what made you want to move to Halifax?
My wife grew up in Halifax, and it's something we had been thinking about for several years before the pandemic. And then, as you all know, there was a great exodus of people from Ontario and other provinces to Atlantic Canada. And so the timing was perfect. I interviewed for this job in July or August, I guess it was, of 2020, at which point I had been working at my dining room table for 6 months and was really sick of that. So it things just came together very well. And this was an amazing opportunity for me at the commission.
Wonderful. Yes, the great migration, the COVID migration. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And I'll perhaps go to Jennifer Simister next. What's your story on how you ended up where you are today?
Sure. So I guess I took a path with a few forks in the road, if you will. So out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I just went to university as I thought that to be a natural path. So I went to Dalhousie, registered in a Bachelor of Arts, and was there for about 2 years. Really didn't enjoy it because, again, it wasn't my passion, wasn't really what I wanted to be there for. So I decided to leave university, and I worked full-time just in retail for a number of years. And within that, those businesses, I, for some reason, took an interest in accounting. I was exposed to it and realized that finance and accounting, as well as back then it was a CA designation, which are all amalgamated now to be CPA, seemed like a very attractive route for me and a good job security, good designation to have. And so I went back to school and I registered in business at Dal, did co-op terms in the accounting field with firms, graduated, went out to London, Ontario, and worked there for about 3 years, did my CA there with Ernst & Young. Stayed with Ernst & Young, moved back home. I loved Halifax, missed Halifax, moved back home and stayed with the audit firm for about 14 years. So I was there in similar to Abbie starting, I was there 14 years, fast forward from now Abbie, because good progression there, good promotion ability and good learning within the firm. And then I wanted to dab into industry. So I left there in 2015 and started with a local founded company here, was there for about 3 years as their director of finance. We eventually had an exit strategy, so we sold the company. And then this opportunity came up, and ironically, coincidentally enough, the CFO that was in my role currently at Steele was promoted to the president role. And her and I worked together as I did the audit of a company she used to work on. So she reached out to me, said, "Hey, are you interested in coming over to the Steele Audit Group? Happy to have you as our CFO." So that was about 4 years ago. So I just finished my 4th year here, and here I am.
Wonderful. That's really great. Thank you so much. And Jamie Decker, can you give us a little bit of background on you?
Yeah, for sure. I went to St. FX. I did my Bachelor of Business with major in accounting. From there, moved to Halifax in September with no job prospects or nothing, just trying to find anything I can get. Took a job with an accounts receivable, like outsourcing company, pretty close to a call center in reality, just panic of trying to find a job. After about 3 months of there, I got on with KPMG. So I was with them, the accounting firm, for about 3 years or so. It was pretty good work. Worked on a lot of corporate tax returns, notice readers, and review engagements. From there, I went to go work at Butterfield Fund Services, which is now Mitsubishi Funds. Did that for a couple of years, kind of learned that field. It's interesting to see how much money that goes through like funds there. It's pretty crazy, but got kind of restless there. And then I came over to Marsh. Been with Marsh now for 13 years. The thing I really like about Marsh is really the variety, the work-life balance. At the end of the day, we got, like a 7-year-old who needs to make it to hockey practice, all that kind of stuff. So I can close my laptop, go home, do what I need to do with my kid, and then later on I can crack open my laptop later and keep working. So for me, the biggest thing why I stayed here is work-life balance and the variety of work I get to see. So I started off here as an accounting manager, worked my way up. So now I have a team of 5 under me. And I get involved as well with a lot of global projects. So the way Halifax works in the whole Marsh captive world is we're called the captive operations group. So we help out all the offices all around the world. So there's captive offices, all through Europe, all through the States, and all that kind of stuff. So right now I get involved with a lot of global projects. So I get to work with a lot of different countries, a lot of different office heads, and all that kind of stuff. So I really like it, and I'll probably be here for the long haul.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I have another question for all of you. How competitive are positions in the field of accounting and finance? And maybe since I have Jamie here unmuted, maybe I'll get you to answer this one first. Do you find that there are lots of positions available, especially this time of year?
So what we have found in the past 2 to 3 years is getting harder for us to hire people. So even when I would hire, we put out like a resume, you know, if we put an application or whatever, and we would get, you know, like 60, 70 resumes, it'd be hard to try to figure out the right person to hire. I find now the way Halifax is going, we struggle to find really good candidates. And when we do find a really good candidate, there's another company out there. So Halifax seems to be experiencing this growth. And I think even places like Ontario, they seem to be hiring people in Nova Scotia and just letting them work from home and staying in Nova Scotia. So it is competitive. And the things we look for when hiring someone straight from universities, we like to see that they have an accounting degree, because we don't want to have to teach them the debits and the credits, and everything else we can't teach, because the insurance accounting is different. People aren't going to know it. That's fine. And then it's personality wise if they fit in. I find the first couple of minutes when you start having the discussion, you start knowing if that person's going to be a good fit or not. So yeah, I mean, it is competitive out there. It's good to have, you know, an accounting degree and, you know, kind of show that passion that you want to do your CPA, just kind of make yourself stand out a little bit. But yeah, it's Halifax is growing fast out here.
Oh, good to know, especially for all the accounting majors here. And I will go to Jennifer next. How competitive are things right now in your perspective?
Well, I mean, historically, it's always been quite competitive, you know, especially with such great universities, even locally here in Nova Scotia, producing such a good caliber of accounting students applying for roles. When I was at the firm, I handled, or I assisted with recruiting co-op students as well as first year students. And it was very competitive in that, you know, you get 200 plus applicants and narrow it down to 4 to 5 positions. And so, you know, what really stood out from a competitive perspective for us was, you know, obviously the accounting degree, as Jamie had said, some form of background in accounting, education wise. Marks were important, but then we really looked to well-roundedness. So, you know, are you that student that can get 100% straight A's or straight A pluses, but really don't do anything else, versus a student that, you know, volunteers or plays a sport or that has a part-time job once a week, or, you know, does something else from a well-rounded perspective. And we found that made the candidates stick out from a recruitment perspective, and that because, you know, once you enter into a CPA program or enter into the work life in general, there's always a bunch of balls to juggle, and the ability and the evidence of being able to have done that in the past is I think what makes a candidate stick out. Nowadays, I think there's a lot of positions available for finance. But the labor market right now it's more difficult. I think Jamie touched on it briefly, to hire as well. So currently we're looking for co-op students if anybody wants to apply. I mean, we're finding difficulty with the labor market coming out of the pandemic for sure.
That's a common theme that I've heard in the Career Week panels, has been that the exact same thing you said, where having someone come into the position that's more well-rounded is definitely more appreciated than, you know, just straight A's or being passionate about it. I think having interest in different fields is something that a lot of professionals are looking for right now. So it's nice to hear that reflected. And I'll go to Doug Harris next. What are there any positions in the field of accounting and finance that are competitive right now?
Well, I can say, I mean, speaking for the Nova Scotia Securities Commission, we're very small. We have 19 people, and so roles don't often come up. But I can speak more broadly about the regulatory field in capital markets, where there are securities commissions in each of the provinces, many of which are much, much larger than us, including New Brunswick. New Brunswick actually has a very large commission. And there are also self-regulatory organizations which employ a lot of lawyers and accountants. So for those who are interested in the regulatory field, most people work in the industry before they join a regulator. So they will have gotten some experience at a regulated firm, whether it's the broker, the dealer, subsidiary of a bank, or an independent broker. They will have spent some time at a regulated firm before moving into the regulatory area, because that really gives them a good grounding, obviously, in the business that regulators are overseeing. And right now, I think things are quite good for people who are looking to work in the financial services industry, because as I think many of you would have seen, there's been almost an explosion in investing and self-directed investing, things like that during the pandemic, whether it's boredom or meme stocks or whatever. So I think for the investment firms, they are always on the lookout for talent, whether it's what we would call the front office, which is the people who are dealing with clients, or the back office, which are the people who are supporting the front office. I think it's actually quite a good time to be looking for a job in financial services. In Nova Scotia, perhaps, but certainly in the major cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver.
Wow, very good to know. Thank you. Very good. And I will go to Abbie. Abbie, how competitive are positions right now?
I would say, like, still competitive, if not more competitive than when I went through the hiring process, which I went through the hiring process in 2019. And then this year I was heavy in the recruiting side of things. And we really look for students like that are going to be a good fit with the firm, as well as students that are going to be well-rounded. So when we hire you, we don't expect you to know what we do in our job. We don't expect you to know really anything besides that an audit is an audit, and that debits and credits are a thing. But what we look for is, if we were to hire you today, can we take you out to a client site? Are you personable? Like, can you talk with the client, interact with them? Are you professional and stuff like that? And it's really competitive right now because, of course, the demand for employees as well as capacity for work has increased, especially for the firms during COVID, because there was new benefits rolled out. People have different situations that they're navigating through COVID, whether their business is booming or they're currently experiencing a downturn and stuff. And as well, here at BDO, we have different service lines, anywhere from like audit and assurance, as well as to tax, bookkeeping, and advisory. And so we've seen that, when I was in that position in 2019, you put out your offer, like your applications, you get a couple offers back and you're making your choice. But where the hiring process for especially the firms happens in September, a year before you graduate, it's really hard, because a student could be sitting down and they could have gotten an offer from another accounting firm a week before they get our offer, and then they would have already accepted something when we only interviewed them a few days ago. So it is very competitive. So making sure you're getting yourself out there to the networking events and making your face and your name known to us is very important in landing a job. But we are hiring, and we actually have someone new starting today in our PEG group. So there is positions available.
Wonderful, good to know. And I know that a lot of, as you did, a lot of accounting students have co-op positions that they are going to, and I know that's how you connected with your position that you have now, especially like you said, with networking. So it's always good to have kind of this knowledge. And if anyone is looking for co-op students, like Jennifer was mentioning earlier, please reach out to you afterwards and connect you to our co-op office, because having that mentorship and that connection is, as Abbie, you were saying, is very important to securing yourself a position in a great company. So wonderful. Okay, so my next question for you all is, what is it about your job or your position that you currently have that you enjoy the most? And maybe I'll start with Doug this time.
There we go. Well, what I like about the working for a regulator is that, first and foremost, our focus is on the public interest, and particularly for a securities regulator, in protecting investors. And having, I describe working for a regulator as kind of a perfect blend of my previous two jobs. Working as a lawyer at a large Toronto firm, as you can imagine, like being at a large accounting firm, it's very stressful, a lot of time pressure. You don't necessarily have a lot of time to think things through, to get things perfect. You're just trying to get the deal closed and move on to the next one. Then when I was an academic, it was exactly the opposite. You sat in your office and had to think of things to think about and think of things to do apart from teaching. What's nice about working for a regulator, it's a blend of the two. So there are real world situations that we need to deal with, but by and large, we do have time to think about the right answer as opposed to just getting it done. And so right now we're very focused on cryptocurrency and crypto assets and rolling out a regulatory program for crypto trading platforms. And so that's an example where I know the people in the crypto world will say we're moving very slowly, given how quickly things move there. But for us, for regulators, we're moving incredibly quickly. And so it's very satisfying to be dealing with something that's new and cutting edge, but also thinking about how to protect the public as they engage with these sorts of activities. So it's that mix of real world situations, but also the time to reflect on what the best outcome is.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Jennifer, is there anything specific about your position now that you enjoy the most?
Obviously, you know, the people answer. We have a great team, not only here at head office, but across all of our dealerships. And I think the thing I enjoy the most being on the other side of the fence in industry now is that I'm, you know, we're a very fast-paced organization. Strategically, we have huge growth targets. When I first started, I think we were 29 dealerships 4 years ago. We're now up to 54 and counting, you know, crossing into the US as well. So I think that's what I'm enjoying the most in this current position, is just being part of growing a company. And not just through buying other dealerships, but also through being involved financially, but also operationally in the existing stores and helping, you know, process improvements and whatnot there to drive bottom line and profitability. So I think that's what I would say currently.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Jamie, what are your thoughts on what you like about your position?
What I've liked about being here is the variety and growing throughout the organization. So when I first came in as an accountant, what attracted me was that I liked, you know, putting my head down. I liked doing work and I liked having busy work. So I put my music on, I'd work 7 hours, get my financials done and be done for the day. And it was great. And then as I kind of kept doing that, I was like, you know, I want a little bit more. So I moved into the management role, start managing people. You get to see a lot of different things. So, I mean, once you get more involved with the financials, a lot of responsibility falls on your shoulders. You could be talking to, you know, controllers and CFO, some, you know, large Fortune 500 companies all over the world, presenting financial statements, all that kind of stuff. And now, like, you know, moving in now to more of these global projects. So doing projects that are like working with people that, you know, you've seen from other countries, someone who you wouldn't get a chance to work with. I really enjoy that. And I do get involved a little bit with the HR process too. So like we're hiring, I do all the co-op hiring in our place too. This is my first year I've worked with the Mount through the co-op program. We've always worked with Dalhousie and SMU, but then we're like, you know, we don't talk to the Mount. Let's reach out and see. So we actually hired our first co-op student starting in the winter from the Mount. So we're pretty excited about that.
Very good. That's great. Thank you for thinking of us here. And Abbie, what is it about your position that you enjoy the most?
I think what I like the most is first and foremost the flexibility we have here at BDO. You know, I get to choose my work schedule. You know, when I come in, when I leave for the day, if you have an appointment in the middle of the day, it's not like, oh, you know, can't leave the office between 9 and 5. Like sometimes I come in from 9 to 1 and then like I'm going to go home and work later this evening. So I really love the flexibility we have, as well as just you get to be your own advocate in like my kind of a role. So when you started off in public accounting, you know, there's about a period of like 6 to 8 months, sometimes up to a year, where there's not really a lot of choice in the work that you're doing. But now I'm in a position where I can say, you know what, I'm really interested in this client. I'm really interested in what they're doing. Can I hop on that audit? You know, I'd like to focus on like MPOs as opposed to for-profit businesses. And so I really like the variety we have here, because you can really find like your niche and just go right into that and focus a lot. Like I do currently now a lot of work with MPOs. And, you know, some of the smaller businesses that we have as a medium-sized firm, you get to walk in Halifax and you walk into a store, or you walk into a business and you're like, wow, they're a client, and you're getting takeout, or, you know, you're shopping at their store. And so that's just the connection, as well as getting to choose a little bit of the work that you do. I really enjoy, as well as a medium-sized firm, you get to do something from start to finish. You know, when I started in my role, I didn't think that I would like a year into being full-time, I'd be planning an audit, executing the audit, and then, you know, working to get final drafts out to the client of the financial statements as well as their report. And so just having the ability to like hop around between the different service lines and do a bit of work in tax and a little bit of work in audit and find what you really want to work on is something I've really appreciated.
Very good. Thank you so much for your answer. And I might ask you our next one, since I have you here. What kinds of opportunities for advancements does this profession have?
Yeah, so as I kind of touched on, you're kind of your own advocate when you get into public accounting. You know, I'm a candidate in the CPA program. So when you do go into public accounting, it is expected that you're going to do the CPA program. And so as a candidate right now, I've completed all my core as well as elective modules. So I'm kind of in a period of 11 months of waiting to write the CFE and do my capstone modules. But you really get to choose like how fast you go in the role. So I've been here for a year and a bit full time, and I'm going to be promoted in January. And so you get to choose, like, you know, when you at BDO, it's junior, intermediate, senior. And when you get to the point where you're promoted to an intermediate, that's when you take charge of, you know, how fast do I want to move through my career? Do I want to move through it slower and take 2 years as an intermediate, or do I want my intermediate position to be a year? Do I want to become a manager one day or a partner? And the great thing about being in a medium-sized firm is there's this room for growth. So if you do have your sights and stars set on becoming a partner one day, it's not something that's totally out of reach. And the really great thing too, as well, is the people that are above you. So your people leaders here at BDO, so managers and senior managers, they're there with you, they're cheering you on, and they want to see you move up in the firm. And so anything that they can do to help you out and to navigate you to the next steps of being promoted and moving on to like a higher position is something that they're there to do and more than willing to help out with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'll go to Jennifer next. Are there any, or what kind of opportunities are there for advancements?
I think sky's the limit. And I think that's what attracted me to this profession, you know, many decades ago. And to Abbie's points, I mean, the firm life really interested me because of the opportunities there, the natural progression. As long as you work for it and want to achieve it, the firm life will support that wholeheartedly and want to see you succeed. And you do have a bit of a set out career path should you choose it with the firm, which I really liked. So you weren't doing the same thing every year. You were constantly being provided new responsibilities, oversight, team management. Then you were into, you know, the operations side of the firm in terms of the WIP and the fees with the clients and all of that stuff. So you were never doing the same thing year after year. So from a firm life perspective, I think that the sky's the limit there for sure. On the industry side, having been here for 7 years or so, it's the same thing. I mean, if you don't choose to go with a firm and you want to graduate from university and start in an industry, I think depending on the company and depending on your attitude and your motivation, you know, you can basically make anything happen that you'd like to. So that's what I think excites me the most about being an accountant, if you will, or a CPA, is that, you know, it provides you with so many open doors.
Very good. Thank you very much. And we'll go to Doug next.
One of the things that I didn't realize about the regulatory area before joining was that there's actually quite a bit of movement between regulators and the industry and back. So as I said, most people start their career in the industry working for a regulated firm before they move to the regulator. But then often people will spend many years at the regulator and then go back into industry because obviously their firsthand and firsthand experience with how regulators operate, what regulators care about, is very valuable within the industry. And from a regulatory perspective, it's good news when people from the regulator go to the industry because we're assuming they're going with a compliance-focused mindset. And so really the opportunities for advancement when you're at the regulator are in both areas. One within the regulator, and certainly at the larger commissions, there are lots of room for advancement. But then to move into the industry, and some people go back and forth between the industry and the regulator. And so there's always an opportunity to be doing something new and something at a higher level based on the experience you've gained.
Very good. Thank you so much for your answer. And Jamie, what about yourself? Is there a lot of room for movement in this sector?
Yeah, I mean, like, so our place in particular, we have, we're all kind of doing the same job in reality. So we have many levels within our organization that kind of help you move along. So if someone comes in and they're doing their CPA, I mean, first of all, we pay for that CPA here. Right now we have 17 people in the CPA program at various levels. So you kind of got that little bit of a group there that people are going through with you. And as you kind of go through that, and you don't even have to do your CPA either. It's not like you have to do it. It's not a requirement, but a lot of people want to do it. And as you start off, you're getting these easy companies, you know, the financials maybe aren't too intense. Maybe you're handling 15 clients or something along those lines. As you kind of tackle those, you get those well settled, you know what you're doing, then you move on to some harder clients. So we'll give you something what's called a flagship client. So those would be companies that, you know, like maybe a Fortune 500 company, and you get more involved. So you're talking to the client more. As you kind of keep moving up from there, then you might take an even larger role with that. So you're running everything with regards to that company. So you might be flying to the, not now at this point, but you might be flying to the client and you might be at these board of directors meetings and presenting these financials. As you kind of nail that, you kind of move up another step, then you might start managing a person, and you might start getting involved with things like, RFPs. So, we go out and we try to pitch, to get new business. And, with Halifax becoming so involved with the business, they'll take a team from Halifax and they'll fly them, like all over the States mostly. And you get there and you actually pitch to the client to try to win their business. So there's a lot of ways to grow here, and your path is kind of clear in reality, because you just know what the next level is, and what someone above you, what they're doing, and you just want to get to that level, and you just gotta you prove yourself, you show that you can handle it, and yeah, there's a lot of movement here.
Wonderful. And I have a follow-up question to this, actually, based on what you said. I know Jennifer and yourself have CPA, and I know Abbie is working towards hers. And you said that it's not required for your company. Is that something that you would suggest to future accounting students?
So I think having your designation is a great thing, because like when you talked about the competitiveness of the industry, so if someone's applying somewhere, you see they got their CPA, in reality that they know accounting, that they've been in the accounting field, that they know their debits credits for sure. So it's definitely a good thing to have. We don't, like, just people been at our organization who have moved up to the manager role who don't have their designation, and that's fine. They're just really good at it and they know what they're doing. And maybe at some point in their life, they were just too busy to do it, and there was no point to go back and get it done. But we definitely support it and we pay for it. And I would definitely suggest it. And you don't even need to do it right away either. So some people come in, they might work for us for 2 years. And then when they're, they get their life settled, and then they say, okay, I'm going to jump into it now. And that's perfectly okay too. And it's not going to hold you back from getting promoted either.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. My next question for you all is, what do you enjoy about your work, or what is something that you dislike? And also, if you feel up for it, I would love to know something that you find challenging as well. So maybe I'll go to Doug for this first one.
Well, I like pretty much everything I'm doing. One of the best things about it is the variety. So again, because we're a small commission, everyone here covers a wide range of subjects, whereas at the larger commissions, people are more specialized, which has its advantages in terms of developing a very deep knowledge of a subject area like derivatives or something like that. But for me, I enjoy the variety. It's a double-edged sword because sometimes I wish I had the time and resources to delve more deeply into certain areas. But again, with wearing many hats, so in addition to being the general counsel for the commission, I work with our market regulation team, as well as with our communications officer, as well as run the hearings, the disciplinary hearings that we do. So all of those things require time and attention. So sometimes I would like to delve into things a little more deeply, but the variety more than offsets that. And I think that's one of the challenges is for someone, I think all of us being professionals, at one stage in our career, it was our job to sweat every last comma and period and debit and credit and everything else. And so it can be hard to let go of that and say, I've only got a certain amount of time and resources to spend on this issue. And so whatever I do will have to be enough. Even though, younger me would have stayed up late into the night reviewing something over and over and over again. So that can be a bit challenging.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And let's go to Jamie. What are some likes and dislikes you have for your position right now, and what are some things you find challenging?
Yeah, I think my likes and dislikes kind of conflict with each other. So I like the variety of work, and I like working with a lot of different things. But then the dislike part of it would be when that perfect storm hits, and like you got that variety, but there's just too many things happening at the same time. So it's kind of like Doug was saying, you stay up late some nights. You're an accountant, you're going to have a life where there's going to be some overtime. We really try to manage that here, but sometimes it's just inevitable, and you're up late a couple times. Quarter ends, year ends. And it's just, you just feel like, you're missing out on a couple things, but, by the time you get it all settled and you get through it, and then life calms down again. So I think part of what I dislike is just that sometimes it seems like a little bit too much, but I also like having too much at time, because then you feel like you're getting through your day a lot quicker.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Abbie, what do you like or dislike about your work right now?
I like a lot of what I do, and to touch on what Jamie said, sometimes when you're at the point where you're trying to get an audit out on final, or it's year ends and stuff, especially during our busy season, you can be up late working long hours. And so that part of the job is, not the greatest, but then you get to the side of it where you're in the summer months, and our summer months are very, very, very slow. And you're able to take vacation time as like when you would like and stuff like that. And so that just makes it all worth it at the end of the day, just to have the summer. The thing that I found the most challenging when I started in my role, of course, I did the fast track CPA program. So I did core 1 and core 2 at the same time. And then I jumped into assurance. And so when I started full time, I actually had 3 modules done, and you're trying to learn a job while you're in the program. And just the CPA program, it's not a joke. You come out of university, you start the program, and you're like, wow, could I go back to university now? Because that was easy. And so just juggling the program as well as juggling learning a new job, taking on more responsibilities in your job can be challenging. But at the end of the day, when you get to the other side of it, I'm not there, but I'm in this very long break period between the elective modules and the capstone modules. You get to the point where you're proud when you do something on your own, and you're like, I understand what they're saying, or I understand what this is, like this test is, and how to do it on my own. And so, your first job, year working in this kind of a role, it's going to be tough, and you're going to, want to throw in the towel and say, yeah, this isn't for me. But when you get to the other side where you start understanding things and you start getting more responsibilities because you're able to do things on your own, it's totally worth it. And you're going to look at yourself and be like, wow, I can't believe that, a year ago, didn't even know how to do an audit, and now I'm doing one on my own. And so that is the challenging part, is the most rewarding part.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Jennifer, what about yourself?
I like that last comment. I always see challenges as opportunities as well. But I think what I like most about, I mean, once I figured out where my path was going to take me and where I wanted to go, I mean, this was the role that I wanted to be in a company. So I love everything about my work. It's a high-paced environment. I'm very, very proud to work for a family business with the Steele name. And also what I think is pretty cool is that I get to collaborate with non-accountants. So I learned from others in operations, in IT, in sales, in management roles that I'm still learning a lot from. So I think that's what I like most about my work is that the pace of the environment and the continuous learning as well as collaboration. Challenging, I'm struggling on that question. I think for us, our challenges are just continuing to grow this company at a very fast pace. But that to me is not a huge challenge. It's very exciting from an opportunity perspective and experience perspective. But that does come with challenges in terms of, raising capital and making sure that we are built in order to accommodate that growth. So be it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll pick on you again since I've got you up here. What are some positions that students should seek out once they graduate?
So I'm biased because I started the firm route and now I'm in industry. I love industry, but I love firm as well. I love a blend of both now. So I think whichever path you take, you're going to set yourself up for success. I do believe that the CPA program is very valuable. It's a good foundation to apply for anything go forward in an accounting finance career. The firm route is a very good one. These firms are very well trained to make sure that they're developing their people. Again, we talked about that natural advancement and promotion within a firm and the opportunities there. You get exposure to a variety of clients and industries. So if you do then decide to take your career into industry, you've dabbed into a few potentially that you might be interested in. So it's a twofold answer. It'd be you could apply for a staff accountant with a firm, or you could apply for a staff accountant in industry. A lot of companies like ours are hiring co-ops, and we, for example, have a few co-ops now that have started full-time in our finance department, which is continuously growing, as you can imagine, with the amount of growth that we're having. We're adding that on to our head office team as well. So it's a bit of a varied answer, but again, the sky's the limit. I think once you graduate with your accounting degree on which you could go, and I don't think there's a right answer there. But
wonderful, thank you very much. And Abbie, what about yourself? Do you know any positions that you, having been recently in the field, would suggest to students who will be graduating soon?
Yeah, so for sure, if you're not graduating soon and you have the option to do the co-op program, I 100% recommend get yourself down to the co-op office, get yourself signed up, because that sort of work experience will set you up to succeed and to know exactly what you want to do. But here at BDO, we hire both co-ops and full-time. We do that hiring in September, and we do normally only hire winter co-ops. But, I say, the firm route is the route to go when you're starting off, as well as doing the CPA program, because once you get those 3 letters behind your name, it opens so many doors, as well as the things you learn within the program just help to build yourself as a leader in the accounting field. But the firm in particular, there's so many opportunities. You can come in thinking, I'm an auditor, but some people I work with, they work in tax, and then other people work in advisory. And so the opportunities are there for you to come into the firm, try something out and say, you know what, I'm not really, liking audit. Can I go work in tax? And we'll make that happen. And so just having all of those opportunities within your own house when you start off and you're recently graduated is so important, as well as the support you get through the CPA program. It's paid for, so I get the invoice for a couple $1,000s a course, but it doesn't come out of my pocket. And so that is to a huge relief that, you know, you're not paying for further education after you just paid for a university degree. And the support is there with days off, you know, the Dunsmore program, time off to study for the CP. And so I'm a little biased in the fact that I've only worked in public accounting, so that's all I can really speak about. But I do say, you know, as someone that's going through it and someone who knows some people that have worked in industry and are going through the program in industry, that, you know, the support is there in public accounting as well as the opportunities.
So I know you mentioned that it was paid for, and Jamie also did. Is this something that is typical with firms? They will offer that?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So most of the firms will pay for it. Each of them are a little different in the types of, like, you know, how it's paid for. And for, like, for example, like mine's a promissory note, so it does amortize after you've successfully completed the CP, but that's pretty much the same everywhere. It's not, you know, day 3 you're done the CP, you don't owe them a cent type of thing, because the program does cost, I think, anywhere from $11,000 to $13,000.
Wow.
So, you know, that's a big chunk of change that, you know, they're putting that out there and they're supporting you through. Like, they give you the time off, which of course, you know, a paid day off is money that's coming from the firm as well. And so the support you get, you know, you might not see the dollars and cents coming your way, as well as, like, you know, you get a paid day off to study and you're there grumbling about how you're spending your day off studying. But the fact that you're getting a paid day off to study and you're getting paid time off to study for the CP is just phenomenal, because you could be in a role where, you know, you have year ends and year end comes August 30th, the CP is September 8th, and you got to be in there to, you know, get things done. And so the support level that you get is totally worth it.
Wonderful.
I think,
Thank you.
Caitlin, just to answer your question too, though, most industry companies pay for the fees as well as your dues. I think it's a pretty standard practice, as even in industry, we see it as a good, we have 2 CPA students currently, and we see it as a good investment in our people, because we'll only start to get the benefit of that as they grow their skill sets and competencies as well through the program.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah, it seems like it's beneficial in everything. And as a non-accounting student, it's news to me, so that's cool. Thank you. Jamie, and for yourself, what sort of positions should students seek out?
I think in reality, just seek whatever, you know, you can sink your teeth into. I remember graduating from university, and, you know, the accounting firms coming in, and they know exactly when they're going to hire. So that's the thing. And they come in, they know they're going to hire September 1st, and they get their people all lined up. And the people who end up getting hired, you're almost jealous of them a little bit. You're like, you know, how come they didn't choose me? How come I didn't get this? Am I ever going to get a job when I graduate? But, you know, once you graduate and you get out there, I mean, there's all kinds of accounting opportunities out there, and your path is what you're going to make of your own. So, I mean, at our place, like, we're not a public practice, we're industry. So we go out and we're hiring all the time. So we hire from, you know, we don't say, hey, like, we can hire you September 1st, no matter what, and we're going to have you lined up. It's, you know, we have about 80 people in our organization now. So we have turnover and we have growth. So we went from 60 people to 80 people in about 18 months over the pandemic. So we actually grew our office quite a bit. So, I mean, we're hiring, you know, at all kinds of levels, and people come in and they try it out. They might not like it, they leave, and there's another position posted and we hire again. So, you know, whatever you can kind of get. Like I said, my first job was accounts receivable, you know, call center, pretty much just to move to Halifax, make some money, and then figure out what I could do. And I was lucky enough to get on with KPMG, which was a great firm, and I got to, you know, get that experience. So really just, you know, whatever you see out there, just apply. And, you know, whether it's government or what have you, and you're going to see accounting, and you can always change gears and go back to, I mean, you can even go back to accounting firm after, if you don't get on right away. They love taking people on who got a couple of years experience. You know, they know that they're good workers. So
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Doug, I know you are not an accountant, you're a lawyer. Do you have any input on this?
I won't add much of value to what everyone else has said. I think that there are entry-level positions at investment firms and banks, obviously, as well as at the major firms. So I think people probably pursue both paths in the regulatory area.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are running out of time, but I do have a couple more questions for you all. If you have one piece of practical advice you could give to a student who is in accounting or finance heading into the workforce, what would that piece of advice be? And I'll stick with you, Doug, since I've got you up here.
I would say I can't give accounting specific advice, but I would say be open to a number of different career paths. And I think when I started practicing back in the early 90s, there was an expectation that you would join one firm and stay there for your whole life. And not doing that seemed scary and risky and everything else. Whereas now, obviously, that is very much the exception and not the norm. So I would say be open to all different ways that your career might unfold, and don't think that just because you're at a place, that's where you're going to retire from. So be very open to that.
I have to get you to tell that to my parents. I think I've heard that same piece of advice from a lot of people. It's a lot of ways how people can grow is by shifting around. So it's nice to have that reiterated. Thank you. And Abbie, what about yourself? Do you have a piece of advice as a recent graduate yourself?
I'd say just show up and do your best, because, at the end of the day, you're not going to know how to do everything as a recent grad. There's going to be conversations, meetings that you're in where words are getting thrown around that you're like totally lost. But as long as you just show up to work every day, you have a positive attitude and you're doing your best, you're asking questions, that's all that you can do. And by doing that, you're going to see opportunities come your way. You're going to see you're learning things. But, if you just show up, put a smile on and do your best, that's all that we really expect.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Jamie, what about yourself? Any piece of advice you give to future finance or accounting students?
Yeah, I agree with Abbie. I think whatever job you get, just go out there and just give it your all. Halifax itself is not a big community, and the accounting community is even smaller. So even if you got something that, maybe it's not your dream job, it's not what you love doing, but just, give it your best. And if you go to try to find something new, later on, you want to know you left a positive impression on the company that you were at. And, companies understand if you want to try something different, you move on, but just give it your all and have a positive attitude and just be there and ready to learn.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Jennifer, do you have any piece of advice for future professionals coming out of university?
I echo Doug in that, when I was in the students' positions, I thought I had my career path completely planned out. Be patient. You may not land in the very first job that you anticipated or stay there as long as you anticipated. Having said all that, I think as long as you're continuing to seek challenges and learning and a learning environment, I'm a big believer when I'm coaching any students here or new finance staff, or my staff are coaching them, make sure we're not just telling people what to do, make sure we're explaining why they're doing it. So ask a lot of questions. Don't be shy. The more you understand why you're doing something, the more successful you'll be. So I would also say, I think it's very important to stay in touch with your fellow classmates and continue that network post-graduation, because if you're all going out into accounting field, you may end up in different positions, different roles, different companies, but you'll still have a little bit of a network to rely on and reach out to should you need advice or knowledge sharing or any of that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I do have another question for you all. And what are some particular skills, attributes, or training that make a candidate stand out from the rest when you are looking at applications? And maybe I will start with Jennifer.
Sure. I mentioned this a bit earlier. I don't think, and Abbie said it as well, I don't think that when you're applying for jobs, the employer is looking for significant work experience because you've been focused more so on your education and getting your degree and graduating. But I would advise the students to try to present a well-roundedness, even if that's volunteering, once a month, or it doesn't have to be, again, well-roundedness with a job or a full-time job. It can be other areas such as playing sports or hobbies, those kinds of things, running or whatnot, which I think would be a real key way to stand out from a resume perspective. And then also, in your interviews and whatnot, communication is key in terms of ability to communicate if you're on the firm side with your clients, or, if you start an industry with your team and people that you're working with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Jamie, what about yourself? Are there any particular skills that stand out for you when you're looking at hiring?
I'd agree with Jennifer. I mean, if we're looking at an entry-level position, I mean, if you've got a resume, we know you're not going to have, years of experience. So like, we're willing to take a chance on like someone straight out of university. Really, if we're going to hire for accounting, we want to see you have an accounting degree. Sometimes we might look at accounting marks straight out of university, depending. Sometimes we don't. And you just want to see some variety in that, if they're in sports, if they played, whether it be rec or varsity or whatever, just know that you're getting yourself out there, and having that co-op experience is really good too. Like, so if you guys are thinking co-op, I mean, go for that. And even if it's just a couple months experience here and there, I mean, just to see that you've been in industry and you know how to work in an office and you know how to interact with people. I mean, we see that, and then the interview just kind of goes from there, and just say, how that person fits in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Doug, what about yourself? Are there any things that stand out to yourself, whether or not it's an accountant or another position that you're looking to fill?
I would say just a wide range of interests and curiosity about the industry that you may be interested in joining. Some maybe volunteer experience or personal experience if it's investment industry with your own investments, or working with investment clubs or things like that. Really just showing that the person is going to be interested by what they're doing. It's not just something that puts a paycheck in their pocket, that they really do have an interest in the area they'll be working in.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Abbie, do you have any suggestions on the type of skills or attributes that you believe are what make a candidate more appealing to employers?
Yeah, it's been said a couple of times, just being well-rounded. So we want to see that you just didn't go to school and you have 100% across the board and you just didn't do anything else. We're looking for candidates that can juggle school, maybe work, maybe volunteering, maybe a sports team. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate either. I came to BDO with a background in aquatics. And so I was a lifeguard and a swimming instructor. I was on the Business and Tourism Society. So even if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want to juggle a job while going to school, join the Business and Tourism Society, or, volunteer with the Sisters of Charity, and, or the Career Services Center. There's lots of opportunities you can get just on campus at the Mount. And that's why I loved going to the Mount, and why I chose to go to the Mount is because, the school is so oriented in giving students opportunity to develop skills in business and to meet business professionals like you're doing here today. So even just walking into like Miriam or Colleen's office and saying, hey, I want to volunteer on campus, where do I do that? And I know from a student who's walked into Miriam's and Colleen's office and said, hey, I'm lost, can you help me out? They're going to take the time to direct you to someone, or direct you to an organization on campus that's going to help you out to get those opportunities. And so, take a look around, and it could be something as simple as, helping out with Care to Stay, or, going on the BTS and volunteering at, the team event and stuff like that. Just think small, because even the small things that you do while you're in university make the big impact at the end of the day when we're looking at resumes.
Wonderful. Thank you. And just to go on from what you said, learning passport, even. A lot of students here would be a part of our learning passport program, and that's showing that initiative that you want to learn more or attend career panels, and just having that extra push towards interest in doing this stuff. I think, like you were saying, it's very important. So thank you. And I don't have any last questions for everyone, but I would love to hear from you if you have any final thoughts or advice to students. Maybe I'll start with Abbie, since I just have you up here on my screen. Do you have any final thoughts for our students today?
I would just say, give your best effort moving forward, and your professors, when you go through university, they're your greatest resource. Get to know them, get to talk to them. The Mount is awesome. It's a small school. You can walk into their office. There may be 15 or 20 people in your class. I know when I took advanced cost accounting, I think there was like 6 or 10. There was only 4 people on campus. And so, going in and getting to know your professors and having them as a resource. I still talk to my professors, and, Jennifer's on the call here. She works in the tourism department. Having those resources when you are in university to say, hey, I don't know what I want to do in accounting or finance, or, I'm having a hard time getting a co-op job. They're the ones that, a lot of the faculty at the Mount have worked in the industry before, and some of them in the public accounting field, some of them with the banks, and some of them own small businesses. So get to know them and, have them as a resource, as well as, get involved on campus. Those are the 2 most important things I can say moving forward.
Wonderful, thank you. I think the Mount is really wonderful at being such a small community university where all the teachers know your name. And I went to Dalhousie before attending the Mount, and I can definitely appreciate how wonderful the teachers are here at wanting to support you. So I definitely agree with that. Thank you. And I'll go to Jennifer. Do you have any last pieces of advice or pieces of knowledge that you can share with students, or last thoughts?
Sure. I guess I'm super excited for all the students, because I remember what it was like to graduate, and you may not know it now, but the opportunities in front of you are endless, and seize those opportunities where you can. It may take a bit to get there. You may not start off where you originally thought you would. You may not stay there as long as you originally thought you would, but I guess my advice would be to continue to seek challenging and learning opportunities. Make sure wherever you currently are, when you do go into the workforce, you're continuously learning and being challenged. I mean, I love where I am now. This is ultimately where I wanted to get to be. And unfortunately, I'm quite old. I'm going to retire probably here. But at the same time, when I look back 25 years of that journey, I love that journey. I loved every piece of it. So make sure that you guys seize those moments as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jamie, what are your final thoughts or a piece of advice you can give to students?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that was said so far. It's just, if you're going for that job, that dream job, or, if it ends up being that accounting firm that you want and you don't get it, just don't get discouraged. There's going to be lots of opportunities out there. Take what you can get. And then if you want to go back and do that route later, you can go back and do that. So it's just, there's a lot of job opportunities out there that are not totally evident when you first graduate. Sometimes you think, oh, you need to do this specific thing in accounting, but there's lots out there. There's many industries to get out there and explore. So.
Wonderful, thank you. And Doug, last but not least, any final thoughts or piece of advice for students?
I would say that you can replicate sessions like this on your own. So if there's someone working at a company that you want to work at, or doing a job that you want to do, reach out to them, whether it's through LinkedIn or otherwise, and just ask to speak to them for 15 minutes, half an hour. Be prepared with questions like the questions we were answering today. Keep it to the time you suggested, 15 minutes or half an hour. But people are more than happy to devote that amount of time to someone who can explain to them why they're interested in what they have to say, and how they think a conversation with them will help. And a lot of jobs come through networking. And so I always took the opportunity to speak to people who approached me, and I'm sure everyone else on this panel is the same way, as are most people in the industry. So, be professional about it, be focused, but it's also a great resource.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Mount St. Vincent University Department of Business and Tourism, I would love to thank today's panelists for being part of our Fall 2021 Career Week. Connecting students with industry professionals is a win-win for everyone. The real-life experiences you bring to the students is an integral part of their education and future success. Thank you again for your time, and thank you all the students who have attended today's panels, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Yeah.